I love the story about the staff at Microsoft being very irritated because they had to pay for the company's game subscription service, Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, which costs like $18.90 a month. And then there was a mini revolt from the staff, and then they reversed the decision. I'm like, yeah, welcome to the life of everyone else. Having to actually pay for these services. And before the next episode of the podcast, we want to say a big thank you to all of you who've reached out to nominate your loved ones for our Words of Wisdom project. We've been super heartened by the response, and we've since interviewed Singaporeans from all walks of life: taxi drivers, academics, tennis coaches, and other people doing cool stuff around Singapore. For those of you who haven't heard, Words of Wisdom is our series of in-depth interviews with 60 Singaporeans aged 60 years and above to capture their life lessons as podcasts. This project is part of Singapore's SG60 celebrations and is supported by MCCY. So if you know a Singaporean above 60 with an unforgettable life story, you can nominate them to be interviewed and have their words of wisdom captured for posterity. Now, we have a limited number of slots for recordings this month, so head on over to our website at folklory.com/words-of-wisdom or click on the link in our bio to send us your nominations today. Each recording will only take about 30 minutes, but the lessons they leave behind will last for a lifetime. And now, on to the podcast.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Yala, your thrice weekly podcast where we talk about the hottest news with a touch of what, Terrence?
Good old humor.
Good old humor, man.
Yeah.
How was the weekend?
We are officially in winter in Singapore already, I think.
Why officially? Because you're wearing a jacket.
Yeah, the weather is like cool. It was like cool over the weekend. Even when the sun was out, like never felt like that hot.
It was
right?
awesome. It was
I can love it like that.
Yeah. But a lot of cases of floods though.
Correct lah, yeah. So, word of warning, don't buy a house in Bukit Timah lah, right? Because that's where a lot of the floods seem to be occurring lah, right?
Queenstown, Ophir Road.
Yeah, okay. I mean, those are the places. I'm just laughing at the fact that people who are very rich, like their houses also got flooded lah. Yeah.
Walao, Schadenfreude, no you.
I mean, it's just how it is in Singapore, right?
Just how it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, the weather was great. But did the rain disrupt any of your plans?
Oh yeah, it did. But I mean, you work around it. Except, you don't go out lah. You just go indoors. Yeah.
I mean, and this kind of winter, because I know January, February will also be cool weather. So if it's officially winter, that means the next 3.5 months, it's going to be cool, man.
Fingers crossed.
It's going to be cool.
Yeah. But I mean, it also forced us to spend a lot of time indoors watching geriatrics, like fighting boxing matches. Yeah.
One geriatric. So for those of you who may not have heard, I mean, you probably heard that Jake Paul, this influencer / content creator / businessman / wannabe pro boxer, challenged the legend Mike Tyson over the past weekend.
Yeah.
And it was Netflix's first live stream boxing event, right?
Correct, yep.
That apparently more than 120 million viewers tuned in for, 3 of whom are in this room. And there were 5 fights. The last of which was Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
And what do you make of it, Terrence?
A snooze fest, to say the least.
The whole thing.
You mean the whole fight, is it? With
the
Jake?
Whole card, you mean?
I only watched like
the last one
and half of the one right before that. The ladies fight, the ladies boxing, women's boxing, which was much more vigorous. Like,
yeah. And I mean, the lead up to this of Jake Paul has been fighting 10 boxers, all of whom are retired, haven't fought for years.
Yeah.
Then it's always got a huge payout. And this one, I think there was 72,500 people in the stadium. Yeah. And you had big timers like Shaquille O'Neal, Charlize Theron, all in the audience. Then there were apparently 120 million viewers tuning in globally. So it was a huge success in terms of the numbers. Apparently, a lot of people face lagging issues. Yeah. But it was boring as shit.
Yeah. You deserve we deserve the hype train that we built now, right?
Yeah. The accident of the hype train.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's all of us bought into the hype, right?
Yeah.
Netflix event. It doesn't cost me anything more than what I pay for Netflix really, so might as well tune in. And we're just talking about how we all put aside like family commitments and all that over the weekend to watch this, hoping that Mike Tyson will pull something out of the hat, right?
And beat the hell out of Jake Paul.
Yeah. And absolutely didn't. It just showed the big winner was Father Time, right? No one can beat Father Time in terms of age and everything.
I thought you were going to say the big winner is Jake Paul and Mike Tyson because they each walked away with a shit ton of money.
We knew they would, right? And we don't begrudge them earning money from it.
Yeah.
But the fact that we thought that it would be something competitive, or that some of us even bet money and things like that on Mike Tyson pulling or something.
Some of us.
I think that's where we deserve what we got.
Yeah. And I mean, for context, Jake Paul is 27. Mike Tyson is 58. No?
Yeah.
58.
I'll admit it, I myself also was like, maybe I should put money on Mike Tyson. Who knows? He looks like his body looks jacked. And he slapped Jake Paul at the weigh-ins and everything, right?
Yeah.
That was nonsense. It was just a sparring contest.
Yeah, and it just was a shitty feeling by the end of it. Partly because, you put aside time with the family, and partly because as much as you hated it, you knew that you contributed to the problem.
Correct.
Yeah.
Do you think Netflix is happy? Do you think Netflix is happy?
I think they're happy.
Why?
Because at the end of the day, they still hosted it. Yeah. They still got the hype trace. Of course, there were lagging issues, but people will forget. I think they're going to start streaming the NFL, right?
And so, WWE Raw.
WWE. So their movement into live event sports, right, is damn smart. And I bet ESPN and all the other sports networks are shitting themselves. Because I've paid for a UFC pay-per-view fight before. It's not that cheap.
Yeah.
Right? But this one, if it comes with a Netflix subscription, of course, they might increase the subscription.
Yeah.
But it feels like if they're pivoting to something that is untouched by the OTTs yet, which is, I'm sure they're happy.
Correct.
I'm sure these teething issues about low bandwidth and all, then they'll just figure it out. People will forget.
And I think, if anything, it showed you that these live events still have mileage, right? In terms of getting people talking, getting everyone to sit down together at the same time and to watch something, right?
All around the world.
You
know, telling your wife for the one day of the week that you can spend time together, let's sit down in front of the TV and have our wonton mee.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And it was funny how, on the internet, on Instagram and all, I was seeing everyone posting LFG, let's fucking go, and then a picture of Tyson on TV, or then after that you don't hear anymore. No more stories about it. Everyone was just disappointed with how the fight actually went.
Nobody wanted to talk about it. If you watched it, you know exactly what we're feeling. If you didn't watch it, maybe just go ask a friend who did. Then you can see how they will recall from answering you.
But that's interesting. It becomes a cultural event, right?
Yeah,
the fact that we all felt disappointed in it by the end, right?
Yeah, it was terrible. It felt dirty.
Yeah, and the fact that we came to work today and then we spent 5-10 minutes talking about it, that's the water cooler talk, right?
Yeah.
That we don't have anymore because everyone watches their own shows on Netflix and all.
Yeah,
right?
And we got judged by the one person in this room who didn't watch it.
Yeah, that's right.
Not naming who.
Yeah.
But yeah, it becomes a culture. And in some way, And in this day and age of binging shit, right, where everything is released, there's still something nice about it. Because we were messaging over the weekend, right? Hey, you all ready? Let's go.
Even our disappointment, we were like, wow, sian.
That kind of stuff doesn't happen very often anymore.
Doesn't. That's why it was quite nice that it happened over the weekend. I wish the fight was better. But it is what it is. Right?
So I think for Netflix, it's a big win. In some way, it proves the fact that people still have an appetite for this. You just make sure that it's appealing enough of an event.
Yeah, like Squid Game. The first Squid Game when it came out, that
was a cultural moment. Also.
Yeah, there was an impetus to really watch it so that you don't get spoilers from your friends talking about it, right?
And there was a weekly drop, right?
Yeah, it was a weekly drop. But now, I'm not sure, man. Squid Game 2, not sure it will have that same impact as before.
Don't know, man.
Because that was during pandemic as well, right?
Oh, that was during pandemic. That's true.
Yeah.
But yeah, nice change. Nice change.
Refreshing.
Yeah, refreshing.
Yeah. But other than that, how else was your weekend?
Weekend was okay. Slowly things are slowing down. Holiday mood is creeping in. And it's a good thing. It's a good thing. Even the news cycle, it's no more parliamentary sitting for the rest of the year, right?
Yeah.
Right. It's holiday mode. I think the weather also helps a lot. So weekend was nice. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, man.
Okay.
But we still have stuff to talk about.
And in fact, everyone is slowing down, but not necessarily us, right?
Yeah.
Come December, there'll be exciting things happening.
Yes. And it is our second live show of the year.
Yeah.
We sold out the first one. Hopefully we sell out again for this one. It is happening on Thursday, 12th December at 8 p.m. And the tickets go on sale at 3 p.m. on Tuesday, 19th November.
So if you're listening to this podcast, most likely it'll be before the time the tickets are released.
Yeah.
And we'll be releasing, we'll be putting the link up on Telegram, Telegram channel, right? Yeah. So in case you missed it the last time, this is your chance to get a ticket early. I think, how many seats do we have? Like 50?
50, 60?
50, 60,
yeah. So it's going to be intimate.
Intimate venue. And that's how we want it, right?
Yeah,
it can't be, we're not going to fill out a theater hall or anything like that.
Yeah, and tickets are $30, but you get one drink free. And it's a Thursday night, the world will be slowing down. So come join us. The link will be shared in Telegram. And unlike so just get your tickets soon. It's going to be a fun time, man.
Yeah. Cool,
man.
All right, let's jump to this exciting news week. Mondays are always like, actually every Monday is kind of like, usually it starts off slow.
Yeah.
So, I don't blame anyone for this slow news cycle, but what is this pretty not so exciting news that we're going to be talking about first?
It's an article that came out in the Straits Times that was published over the weekend, and it's titled "Goodbye to Big Tech's Big Perks. Singapore workers say global tech clash has come for their benefits." So apparently they interviewed 11 current and former Singapore-based employees at Apple, ByteDance, Microsoft, Google, and Meta, who spoke to the Straits Times on condition of anonymity because they are not authorized to speak to the press. And they all shared a common lament that the golden era of big tech perks and benefits may be coming to a close.
Yeah.
So, they go into quite a lot of detail about what the different employees or the different companies are feeling. But what made you want to talk about this, Terence?
I think it's because it's something that not only affecting Singapore, right? It's around the world. Everyone's feeling it. I think we all, at least know one or two people who work in some of these tech companies, right? And you also hear from them as well. And hearing them moan about it is like what you mentioned, Schadenfreude. At some points, they moan about lack of business class travel and things like that.
Yeah.
So I thought it's something worth discussing since it is affecting a large proportion of tech workers, right? And not just in Singapore but around the world.
Yeah. So I think everyone would probably have heard about these big tech companies doing layoffs over the past year or two. I think starting from November 2022, when Meta did their first round of cuts.
Yeah.
I think about 11,000 people lost their job globally at that point in time. And then Zuckerberg later called 2023 his company's year of efficiency, where another 10,000 jobs were cut.
Yeah.
So since then, there was Meta, and I think almost every big tech company, even some local born tech companies have had layoffs like this. Some uglier than others.
Yeah.
But over here, people kind of share certain things that, honestly, when I was reading it, I was like, wow, life in the tech company at its peak, right, was really amazing. Because some of the complaints they were saying, of course, the layoffs were horrible. I think some people said they found out overnight that the entire team was disbanded. But when the rest of the employees talk about how the layoffs are a sign of the perks going away, right?
Yeah.
Basically, some of the perks were like, let's see, they had laundry service. Meta famously has laundry service. I think there was, the budgets per month for self-improvement, for, employee-driven clubs.
Yeah.
Where there were sponsors like $75 a quarter for just to do fun activities. I know from personal experience going to the office, even getting replacement keyboards and mice were like from vending machines.
Yes.
But I think some people were saying that the things that impact them the most is like the cutting off of work from home, But what are some of the things that stood out here for you?
Laundry, man. Laundry,
right?
Some said laundry service is gone. I'm not sure if in the Singapore context, but I did read that Google also cut certain snacks, like dried mango. You can't get dried mango around.
That's just you heard on the street.
There's some articles about tech perks and stuff being cut.
Dried mango.
Although literally, just a couple of weeks ago or a month ago, CEO of Google, Sundar Pichai, explains why Google keeps spending on lavish office perks.
Oh.
So he says that the benefits of all these perks still outweigh the costs associated with them. So we're talking about cafes, restaurants, micro kitchens, on-site daycare, exercise facilities, nap pods, things like that. And all these are verified. We've been to these offices. We've gone on tours where I've literally sat in one of these nap pods before. Not sure how many people actually use them.
Yeah.
But they're there, right? And the meals there are always astounding in terms of the range and variety of food that they serve, right?
Yeah.
Better than any Thai peng store in Singapore that you can go, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, you can almost understand the benefits, why they do it. Because if you provide food, for an employee, right, is a great thing to have food provided.
Yeah.
Right. Especially if you're in more crowded areas. If you have coffee and all, of course, that's another luxury.
Yeah.
The massage pods and the nap pods, I don't know. But gyms, yes. And just healthy food in the pantry. If you keep people healthy, they can also work better, and they are happier. They don't need to worry about prepping food and all.
Yeah.
But there was something in the article that stood out was a Google engineer, Hamish, that's not his real name, who is in his mid-20s and has been with the company for over 3 years, finds some cutbacks affecting catering and in-office events bearable. His chief complaint is reduced business travel. I love traveling, but nowadays it's under so much scrutiny, it's practically impossible to go on business trips unless it's critical. Before the end of 2022, employees were generally allowed to travel to conferences and summits once a year. Now that's off the table. I mean, I get why going to summits and conferences are important.
Yeah.
Because when I was working at my previous employer, I went to one conference, which was great.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't
What's so great about it?
I mean, go to France.
Cool.
Then I managed to also convince the bosses to give me a few days before to travel, but I had to fight for that.
Okay.
You go there, you meet other people in the industry, but of course it's just a fun time.
Correct.
But at least it gives you exposure to the bigger industry. And I remember coming back, I was like, hey, actually, that's quite interesting. Aviation is not just what you see in Singapore.
Yeah.
So for development, growth is important. And plus, getting drunk with a bunch of people overseas is always fun.
That's the most important.
That's the most important.
Just admit it.
I mean,
I hear you talk about development and growth and bullshit.
Hey, I grew, okay? I grew. After that, I became, a more global citizen after meeting, but I also had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's just the line, it's impossible to go on business trips unless it's critical. Which, I mean, now the mantra you normally hear is that business trips are only if it's critical. But back then, in the golden age of tech, I guess just people, it used to be great.
I guess the interesting thing about the tech industry per se is that because, Google, they talked about starting with very no hierarchy kind of thing, right? Where everyone you were encouraged to question the system. So I guess the idea also was that all these perks also, regardless of your so-called rank within the company, you would also be privy to these perks, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's like what you said, the gym or daycare or cleaning facilities and stuff like that. Whereas in more traditional industries like finance and all, a lot of times there's a lot of hierarchy, right? Only MDs and above can travel certain business class and all these things. So I guess that's what people have gotten used to over the years, the last 10 years, that these tech companies, you join for the perks also, right? Because from day one, you don't have to be like the MD to get the free gym membership or anything like that. You get the perks from day one.
Oh, yeah.
So whereas maybe in other industries, they're more used to tiered kind of treatment, right? I mean, I'm not sure how it is in more recent years, but I remember my time in finance, there was definitely you had to be of a certain level in order to unlock certain perks like business class travel and all that. And that was the norm. You don't, there's no expectation that, I got to have one business trip a year kind of thing.
I think the tech company, especially during COVID, where I think it was boom time for them, they started hiring like crazy. I think the stat was that a CNN analysis found that between 2019 and 2022, Meta and Google's parent company, Alphabet, increased their headcount by 103% and 64% respectively. So I think, like what you were saying, in finance or more traditional industries, there was a tiered system of perks. Tech companies, I think, flip everything on their head. And they had flipped everything on their head for damn long.
Yeah.
Ever since Google first started.
Yeah.
I know there's this one story which I think has been verified, that early in the days of Google, I think as recent as 2012, right? Do you know of the Google death benefit?
I heard of it, yeah.
Yeah, so basically, what happens, right, is that, let's see, if a US Googler, this was 2012, published in Forbes, if a US Googler, someone who works at Google, passes away while under the employment of the company, their surviving spouse or domestic partner will receive a check for 50% of their salary every year for the next decade.
Wow.
And there's no tenure requirement. So at that point, they had 34,000 employees and they all qualified. I think since then, they have kind of trimmed that away. But the tech companies were doing like crazy things, which in some way you can argue probably made other companies think of what employee perks mean.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, if your perks are that good, you are going to attract very talented people.
Correct. Yeah.
Right. And for other companies to want to attract the same talented people, they need to find some way to pull them over. So in some way you can argue that, the rising tide lifts all boats. But at this point in time when it's funny because they were saying, now it just feels like a regular corporate company.
Yeah.
Then I'm like, shut up.
Yeah. I love the story about the staff at Microsoft being very irritated because they had to pay for the company's game subscription service, Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, which costs like $18.90 a month. And then there was a mini revolt from the staff and then they reversed the decision. I'm like, yeah, welcome to the life of everyone else, having to actually pay for these services.
Yeah. So I mean, it just feels like, I guess maybe it's the great reset. And maybe these tech companies, I don't know about the employees, whether when they were working there also, they knew that this is not going to last.
Yeah.
Because the perks you're reading now, and this is already after, I'm guessing the perks in 2019 were still less than the perks in 2014.
Yeah.
Right. So you read it, it feels like, oh, okay. Is it just because these tech companies, these social media companies are no longer the it companies? Now it's crypto.
Yeah.
Crypto feels like it's even more of a bubble. But these tech companies, I mean, it feels like now they are, I think anyone who's laid off or when you have stuff taken away, of course, it doesn't feel good. But it feels like this is the more like steady state of a tech company.
Correct. And don't forget, just about a month ago or so, Meta actually fired employees for using like food allowances on personal items like from the groceries and all that.
Oh.
So they actually fired a couple dozen employees from the LA office. Because for the smaller offices for Meta, apparently they don't have cafeterias. So they give them like $25 for breakfast, $25 for lunch. So some people actually use those vouchers to buy groceries or to have food delivered to their homes directly rather than to the office.
And that's an offense?
I mean, it's against the rules of how to use the company allowance. But they actually fired these employees for that. So, it's not just talk. They're really clamping down on the abuse of these perks as well. I think back then maybe they wouldn't even bother looking at the numbers, but here, it tells you that they're even looking at what you order from these places.
Yeah, I think now they're saying the system, like everything is tracked. I think on Reddit also some current employees of tech companies said that everything is tracked. You want to promote someone also, everything is tracked.
Yeah.
But do you have some compassion for these employees? And I think anyone who loses their job overnight, that's a horrible thing.
Yeah.
Okay, that is not fair in any way. But the people complaining about the perks being taken away, right? Do you have any compassion for them or not?
I mean, the thing about these perks is that once you introduce them, right, it's much harder psychologically when you have to take them away, right?
Yeah.
People get used to it, and if they'll feel like it affects them a lot more than it actually does, right?
Yeah.
You're just not used, they're not used to maybe not having certain meals covered and things like that, or business class travel. It's one of those things. That's why we talked about this before, right? Like how early you should expose your child, for example, to business class travel. Even if you can afford it.
Yeah.
Do you want your child to be taking business class travel from the start?
Yeah, exactly. Once you give it to them, cannot.
Yeah. Everything else will just pale in comparison, and then they won't focus on what is the important thing, is that the whole journey is supposed to be fun, right? Regardless of where you sit, especially as a child, right? It's not like you have to fight with people for space and all,
Yeah.
It's just the experience.
Yeah.
So same thing with these perks. I think, they're all very good perks, but I can understand why these people get frustrated that what they used to have before is being taken away from them. But I mean, they're speaking from the ivory tower, right, of tech, right?
Yeah. But there's like someone in another country saying like, hey, Terrence, don't complain about the MRT breakdown, okay? You all have it good, no? Yeah. Singapore was not going to be sustainable like this.
But public transport is like, you need public transport to do your basic essentials, right? Going to school, going to work. But perks, I mean, okay you don't get food in the office, then just go downstairs and tapao. They're like the rest of the 90%.
I can't analyze my macros, Terrence. I can't see that I'm getting my protein intake every meal.
Correct.
I need the breakdown. Okay, when I go down and buy chicken rice, I don't know.
Yeah, correct.
You know?
It's true. Yeah. But that's life, right? You have to get out there and be exposed to germs and exposed to everything. And maybe that will inoculate you against
the harsh realities.
No, just in terms of like just being out of office actually also is a good thing, right? Once in a while, seeing the world outside, I think that
and I think we say this fully aware that whenever we go to the Google office, we make sure we have a good meal.
We enjoy the perks.
We enjoy the perks.
But we're not employees, you see. We're not employees. We're guests most of the time.
I remember once when we were conducting a workship at Google, they had this basketball machine at the canteen that no one gave a shit about. But it was just our team. We were just playing it the whole time.
And every time I go to Google office, I eat for like 2 people. I eat for dinner, lunch and dinner.
You have lunch and you go to the pantry, then tea, then pantry, then dinner. Yeah.
And I like double my coffee intake for the day, right?
Yeah, correct. It's good. Because, I mean, okay, to acknowledge that to get into these companies is not the easiest, right? These are all highly coveted jobs. But you think this will result in less people being like ex-Meta, ex-Google on their LinkedIn and shit like that or not? Because now it's a badge of honor.
Yeah, and I think it still is, right? It still is a badge of honor to say you worked at one of these big tech companies. I think the lack of perks, I mean, the perks matter up to a certain point, right? But beyond that, it's like people want to know that you worked on the design of the iPhone or that you worked on, the optimization of the news feed and things like that. That's way more important for hiring than like, that you enjoyed perks over these years. In fact, if anything, it kind of went, I mean, in last time when they were smaller companies and all scrappier tech companies, right? Maybe it was, you wear it as a badge of honor, like
an engineer.
Like you really engineered, you slept under the desk with Elon Musk or Zuckerberg when they were building something. Now you know that shit doesn't exist, right? Like it's people clock in, clock out. Like you said, there are vending machines to get like mice and keyboards when they need and all. So it's quite a cushy job, I mean, of course, stressful in its own way, but it's cushy, So it doesn't have that. It's not like you've gone to war, so to speak. You don't have the accolades or the Medal of Honor that used to be accorded when you were with these tech companies.
Yeah, it almost feels like there was that tech age, where like only engineers work at tech companies. Of course, you have support staff, but it felt like, you go there, you really have to work your like mathematics and physics and all that. Then it went into this golden era where tech became like cool.
Yeah, and tech was going to solve all the problems of the world, right?
Yeah.
Arab Spring and everything.
Yeah, and just like the software it was creating, which was, access to info, social media, it had this very, very romantic glow about it. But then now, right? Now it almost feels like, what is the latest iteration of the company to be at, the people that is going to be probably companies like OpenAI, Tesla, SpaceX. And if you think about the nature of those companies, it feels like it's going back to like, you go there because you want to do engineering, right? I haven't heard much about the Tesla perks. In fact, Elon Musk said 40 hours a week in the office or get lost, right? And it feels like, we're going back. There was this golden age of like, tech is all nice, inclusive and open and progressive. But then now it's back to like hardcore engineering. Which in some way is kind of an interesting switch, right? Because now I think OpenAI is also going to be opening an office in Singapore. I think that will be the new flex, Hey, where you working? OpenAI. You walk into a room.
You think Dyson has that effect?
I don't think so. And I don't know why though.
Ex-Dyson.
I don't know why, because Dyson, in some way, like how many companies in recent years actually got so big from like hardware, consumer hardware? Tesla.
Apple.
Yeah, but Apple is also quite a while ago, right?
Yeah.
They're like from the 90s, you know.
Yeah.
But since Apple, there were very few companies, right? So to have a consumer product, hardware, the products are cool, the marketing is cool, even though now it feels a bit dated. It never became like, wow, hey, you're working at Dyson. Maybe Dyson also, the name sounds a bit too much like Daiso. I don't know, like, but do you feel that?
I mean, they have a very nice office space at St. James Power Station.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But yeah, Dyson, I guess they've not created technology that has really like captured the world's imagination. Sure, hairdryer is great.
Oh, yeah.
They were supposed to create a self-driving vehicle or something at one point, but
that's
never
true.
happened. Yeah.
They only really improve existing products.
And not to the point where it's like essential, like the iPhone is fucking essential
like
to
iPhone
a lot of people.
changed the world.
Yeah, you can say the same about Facebook as well, right?
Yeah, Google.
Microsoft, obviously.
Yeah,
right,
Google.
Amazon, obviously, but Dyson is like, okay, nice products, but yeah, it's not... If I can live without using a single Dyson product.
Right? Or I can get another product that does what Dyson does, maybe not as good.
Yeah, correct.
That's true.
Whereas you can't say the same of a lot of other companies, even compared to Uber or Grab as well.
In some way, Tesla, Tesla, OpenAI, again, SpaceX. So those companies will be the new flex.
I mean, how about the local ones? X Ninja Van, X Carousel, all that.
I think people do put that. I think I've seen. Yeah, X Carousel.
Okay,
I think I've seen.
Yeah.
X Grab.
Yeah.
X Grab.
Yeah. Grabler.
No, I don't think that's that. I don't think that carries well. You're a grabber. Hey, Google Grab.
Trump will have something to say about that.
Grabber.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, I don't think that carries well.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, tech companies, the golden era is gone.
For now, right.
Which I mean kind of sucks because then there's less budget for marketing also.
Maybe.
Yeah, or comms and all.
Definitely.
So for small businesses that work, we also know that a lot of these companies, they have, over the past, I would say 6-7 years, they've shifted their local focus resources, especially for content creators, to other bigger markets.
Yeah, correct. But yeah, I mean, I hope we still get invited to these offices once in a while and that the perks are still there when we're around.
Yeah, we haven't been there for a while. So it would be nice to go back. And we've been to the Singapore offices of all these companies. Microsoft and Apple.
Amazon, I don't
Amazon,
think.
Microsoft, Apple.
Yeah. Spotify also not officially or anything, right?
Spotify, we not officially.
Seen, but yeah.
Not officially.
But yeah, interesting.
Yeah, man.
Interesting times for tech, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, speaking of, like foreign companies coming to Singapore and doing things that piss off the people here. There's also a Singaporean who has gone to London and committed some very serious crime that they said is seems to be as bad as like having child porn or assaulting people and things like that and the MFA, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, has had to step forward to say something about it. What is this thing that this person did?
So this is what this person did. So I mean, considered a Singapore government officer. What he did was he left his children at home alone while they were asleep to pick up his spouse at night. So the incident happened in September 23, and one of the children woke up and left the locked house to look for the man and his spouse. The child was found a short distance away from home, triggering the involvement of the local police. So MFA did not say how old the child was, but I mean, old enough to wake up, unlock the door and walk out.
Yeah.
So because the local police were involved, it required further investigation. And this all came to light because last week there was the annual report to the British Parliament on offences committed by people with diplomatic immunity, which was done by the UK Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office. Development Office. So basically what I gather from this is that there's a bunch of people in the UK who have diplomatic immunity.
26,500 people.
Yeah,
actually.
Correct.
Yeah.
Which my understanding means that because they are here as diplomats or, on behalf of international organizations representing them, they have immunity from certain crimes.
From being prosecuted in the country.
From being prosecuted in that country. Correct. But this report kind of talks about offences that have been done that carry a penalty of 12 months jail or more. So those are serious and significant offences.
Yeah.
And they highlighted, just to give a context of like, okay, I guess is that all these people have diplomatic immunity, but we are still keeping watch of them.
Yeah.
So there were 9 serious and significant offences by suspects.
Yeah.
And amongst the offenders, there is that Singaporean.
One Singaporean.
Right, for child neglect.
Cruelty or neglect of a child.
Yeah, but other offenders are Libyan accused of sexual assault, an Iraqi accused of possession or distribution of indecent images of children, and a Portuguese person accused of indecent exposure. So those are examples, and this Singaporean guy is one of the 9.
Yeah.
So when I was reading this, I was like, wow, fuck, man, like, it sucks to be that guy. You know?
Yeah. His basically his crime has been, sort of like
Lumped
placed alongside, pedophiles or pedophilic behavior and alleged assault and driving without insurance. All serious, quite very, very serious crimes, right?
Yeah. So when you see this, you're like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
What do you make of this, Terence?
But after that, the MFA also came out with a statement, right? That they have already sort of counseled and the Singapore government officer, and the local authorities also closed the incident with no follow-ups required, and the officer cooperated fully in the investigation, and diplomatic immunity was not invoked at any point, right? And he has ended his posting in London as scheduled. So. That's MFA basically said, it's case closed already, and it wasn't so serious that there was any that the police saw it appropriate to charge him for anything like.
And they gave him a warning, issued him a warning.
Yeah. Correct,
so basically, I guess in this sort of processes, someone can invoke diplomatic immunity, or the country can invoke diplomatic
and then
immunity.
He can just siam .
Yeah,
he can be asked to leave right?
Yeah,
that's the worst that could happen.
Yeah, but what would? So what? Okay, as a father yourself, like what do you make of this?
I mean, it does sound like quite much less serious than all the other crimes, and it is less serious, right? But I guess the big question is, what if something happened to his child during that period, right?
Yeah.
If the child was hit by a vehicle or something, would you look at it differently? Would you judge his crime differently? That's a question I would ask.
Yeah. And I mean, okay, just to understand also, the context is London. I think in Singapore, the reality is Singapore is way safer than London.
At night, especially.
Yeah, at night. So when I was reading comments online, that's what people were pointing out. I think, first of all, the negligence of children law is a lot stricter in the UK than Singapore.
Yeah.
Because I think in the UK, there's certain laws that you can't beat the child also. Whereas in Singapore, I think there's some wording. I mean, I don't know the exact difference, but based on what I read online, so already the way these things are evaluated is one thing.
Yeah.
Then the second thing is that, yes, it is in London. But then, yes, of course, if something horrible happened with the child, then you could see it very differently. But that's the same as a lot of things in life, right? Like you give a child, I don't know, like a phone, I mean, of course, they're older phone, right? An older child, you give a phone, there's a battery inside, the battery explodes.
Correct.
Right? But giving the phone to the child is not an act of negligence or harm, but something could happen. So in this case, I feel like, oh shit, I feel it's rough.
But giving a phone to a child also different from letting, let's say, leaving your door unlocked and leaving the house.
But it was
leaving
locked.
them unlocked or leaving them alone in the house.
Yeah.
Kids who can't care for themselves, right?
Yeah.
So I bring up another incident that is closer to home that should give you maybe add some nuance to the discussion, right? Remember there was a accident along River Valley not too long ago where a 4-year-old girl was run over by a vehicle because she was supposedly going home, on the way home with her helper.
Yeah.
But the helper was, I think, holding her sister's hand and allowed the 4-year-old girl to, not say allowed, but the 4-year-old girl ran ahead of the helper and she ran across this small road turning, and then the SUV that was turning in hit the girl she rolled over her and she died on the spot, right? Very tragic case. River Valley. And very sad. Just a few weeks ago, or at least earlier this month, the helper has been charged with a rash act over the death of the 4-year-old girl. So there's a very big debate online about why is the helper being charged or being solely blamed for this? Because the driver has not been charged for anything.
Really?
In fact, the driver, I think the coroner said that there was no way that the driver could have seen the girl crossing and all that, right? The driver's another parent who was in the car with her kids or so, you see. But the helper has been charged with a rash act for, I guess, letting the girl run ahead of her, right? You could argue, like, if the girl didn't get run over, would the helper have been charged with anything? But she was run over and died, and she got charged, right? So I'm saying that in these cases, do we just look at the outcome, the fact that the kid was, safe and everything, that even though he ran out of the house, or in the end he was safe? Or do we look at the action itself that precipitated this? And this goes back to our discussion about traffic laws as well, right? Should we be punishing people for the actions based on the injury that's sustained by the other party? Or should it be just based on did they basically break the law, right? In some place, example was saying taxi driver runs red light, runs over pedestrian, but the pedestrian recovers miraculously. Does that mean that a taxi driver committed less of a crime, less of a dangerous act, right? So I feel like even in that River Valley that made case where she's being charged, there's still a lot of debate and a lot of grey areas about it, and we don't know if the driver or anyone else is going to be charged for anything, right? So in this case, although on the surface it feels like, it's not an egregious act that he committed, but is it only because nothing happened? That's why we're saying this, right?
I guess if you think about it on the spectrum, like let's say if you were to put your child in the middle of the road, that is, of course, it's damn dangerous, right? And it's your role to make sure your child is safe. So in this case, the fact that he locked the house, it's safer than leaving the door open. But the fact that he locked the house and without a child-proof lock is less safe than locking it with a child-proof lock. So in that sense, if you look at that spectrum, there is a bit more negligence there compared to having a child-proof lock. Wow. So I get what you mean, that it is the responsibility of the parent to minimize the risk of bad shit happening to your child. So in this case, the risk was not adequately minimized.
And in that, again, back to the River Valley case, she's being charged, I think, as the guardian, right? Because she's in the care of the child is under her. So, people ask also, how about the parents? Aren't the parents overseeing the care of the children? How come, they're not being charged in that case, right? But that's where you're like, okay, I think a certain line has to be drawn, right? Who was in the immediate vicinity of the child? Who ultimately was in charge of taking care of the child at that point in time, right?
But that one also is a bit subjective in some sense, right? Because how far back you want to go? You can say that, but the parents were the one who hired the helper. Same way this one could be like, the lock manufacturer it has to stop somewhere.
Correct. So I'm saying, if anything, in this case, is the parents, lock or not lock aside, maybe it's just leaving the children alone at home, if anything. And I think you made a good point that London is, it's a very different place from Singapore also. Going out on the streets late at night alone as a minor, it's a very different prospect from Singapore, right?
But they never say maybe if he has a camera.
So, what difference does that make?
Don't know.
Okay maybe he has a camera, then he's watching, but can he react in time if something happens, right? And that's something that I think as a parent also you have to grapple with when as your kid gets older also when you start traveling with your child. I've heard of friends who, when they travel with their kids, once the kid is in bed, they sort of just leave the kid in the hotel room alone and they go downstairs or go out for a meal or something, right? But in those situations, then you are expecting that the hotel nothing catches fire, no bad shit happens, right? But it's essentially it's sort of, even if there's a camera, it'll still take you time to get back, right? If there's an emergency.
But even in that case, there's still that layer of the hotel. Whereas this one, I guess, if the person's going from inside the home to outside on the street, right?
That's unsafe.
That's unsafe,
Ooh. So I get why people are saying that, it doesn't compare. But at the same time, the context of London and everything, maybe it's a bit different, right? For a child sneaking out at night, it's a very different prospect from Singapore. In Singapore, where a child sneaks out at night, right?
I guess that's why people put like grills or those invisible grills on their balcony, lah.
Oh yeah,
if they have children.
Yeah.
Because of course you can say that, the child shouldn't jump. But if the child jumps, in some way you are responsible for not putting the grill, lah.
Correct. And remember the recent case of that child that was on the 3rd story ledge of a flat.
Yeah.
And then a man had to climb onto the HDB to rescue the child.
You look at the parent, you're like, hey.
Yeah. And he said that he brought the child to the window, and there was apparently a woman there sleeping on the couch or just getting
so
up.
She didn't know, right?
She did not know at all, and the window was wide open.
That's true. So in that case, you look, the parent don't be so negligent.
Yeah.
So in this case...
nothing happened to the child there, but do you think the parents should be charged?
I mean, I don't know whether the parents should be charged, but the parents are responsible for the kid.
Correct.
So in this case, I guess coming back to this...
It can lead to really... I mean, we're just thankful nothing happened, but I wouldn't immediately diminish the seriousness of what he did also, lah.
Wow.
The fact that they brought it up in Parliament and all that.
Maybe it could have been a different tier, lah. Okay, these are primary crimes that were committed. This is a secondary crime.
Yeah.
Because, it feels like literally there's a written statement, and there are 2023 for possession and distribution of indecent images of children, one Iraqi, driving without insurance, assault, sexual assault, indecent exposure, cruelty to or neglect of a child, Singapore one.
But maybe that says more about us as Singaporeans, the way we're reacting to this, right? That a Western country, they have apparently have much higher standards for neglect of a child, right? Like what the minimum bar is, lah. And whereas in Singapore, we're all saying, no big deal. Like that. Maybe that says more about Singapore than it does about
we are so spoiled. It's like the table, If you leave your laptop at the table and it gets stolen, people from other countries will be like, of course, what the fuck
moron,
you put it there?
Yeah.
But then as a Singaporean, like,
why would people steal?
Why would people steal? We are so mean. I never do anything wrong,
Correct. Yeah. So it says more about us that we are
We're spoiled,
it's a different tier, from child.
We are like the tech. We are like the tech company of the world.
Tech companies live in a bubble. Live in a bubble. Yeah.
And then when laptop gonna stolen, or people sit at the table where our tissue paper is,
can't believe it.
Wow. Really?
Can't believe it. People are so evil.
That's true.
Yeah.
Walao.
That's why. That's why I thought this was quite interesting. Seeing how Singaporeans reacting to it, lah.
Yeah.
So how you still think that is no big deal, lah?
No, I can see the point of it,
Yeah.
As a father, I can see the point of it. Maybe rash Harish of 2023 might have dismissed this, but now I can acknowledge.
Selfish Harish of 2023, lah.
Driven and laser focused.
Self-centered.
Laser focused.
Self-centered.
Yeah, now more well-rounded.
I'll give you a props. I think you are much more like all about your family than I've ever seen, right?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's a real thing, like.
Yeah, it's a real thing.
So less self-centered, I would say. Less self-centered.
Oh, thanks, man. I think it's more like
but that also means that last time you were damn self-centered, that's what I'm saying.
Please, last time got no child. Okay, like one day I really think my wife should come on this podcast, because I feel there's this whole narrative being painted of me as a husband and a family man.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, terrible, no, Terence?
No, but I say now, I can see more priority. Like you basically, you understand now, like the family being a priority versus work, right? Last time it used to be like work was like number one and all that, right?
Actually, like the thing, right? Like, okay, especially because we run our own business, right? I think it's very hard to say that, okay, like, yes, family I would still say is the priority. But I would say work at this point, for me also, it is equally a priority, because if work doesn't go well, then the family will be impacted.
Yeah,
and I think that's something that I'm also grappling with, because, like, you yes, it's a priority, but you can't also just say that, okay, this is secondary to everything, lah. And for me, it's like, yes, family is a priority, but work, especially if you're doing your own thing, is different. It's different. And I think that is the reality that I'm also realizing.
But last time it used to be, I guess, families can be very easily deprioritized, right? I think that's the difference now. That
No,
you will struggle with the decisions.
Correct. There was single Harish. Life very easy one.
Yeah, right? Very, very super self-centered. Yeah.
Hey, please, no, work.
Yeah.
Then there was relationship Harish, then engaged Harish, married Harish, and then now father Harish. I'm sure you also went through that, right?
Yeah.
I think it's definitely a natural thing, lah.
Yeah, perspective, lah.
Perspective. Yeah, you gain perspective, and also I think you also understand, especially like as we are running this on our own. Yes, like the work thing, it kind of needs to live side by side, lah. I would imagine if you were working in a bigger company where you almost have like someone who you can push your work off to, it's easier to take your foot off the pedal. But the reality is it's tougher if you're running your own thing.
So you say life is easier for these tech companies and all with all that.
In some ways. That, like, of course, then you have to deal with like all the politics of a big company and all. But that stress of when you're kind of directly responsible for your business or like that, is a different kind of stress. Yeah. I just don't like it when people in certain jobs is like, oh, my job is damn stressful. I'm like, yo, every job has stress. Even though sometimes people think that all we do is sit down and talk to each other for a job.
It is stressful.
Yeah.
No, it's the sense of you always have to be closing, always selling, always.
Cannot.
You never really have you can't compartmentalize that easily, right? Yeah.
Exactly. But interesting, huh?
Yeah.
Interesting. Negligence.
But
yeah, cool. What is your one Shiok comment of the past week, Terrence?
There are some really interesting comments about I think the episode 587 where we talked about the new traffic rules, and I think listener Fuji Shiba says give some insight into like the his general thoughts about it, right? Whether about the proportionality of sentencing someone based on a minimum sentence. Of course, there's certain, I think he raises very good points. I don't know if he's a lawyer or he or she is a lawyer and all. Some things I still don't disagree with, but I thought it was at least they tried to explain a little bit more about how the 2019 amendments gave undue weight to the injuries that resulted to the victim, right? Such that the offender may suffer mandatory minimum punishment disproportionate to his moral blameworthiness. So a very long explanation, but I thought it was a interesting breakdown of what we had discussed. And also he gives a recommendation, he or she gives a recommendation of Tatsuro Yamashita and Maria Takeuchi if you're enjoying city pop. So they are the OGs. So I'll go and check them out as well.
Oh, yeah. Nice. That was on Reddit, lah.
Yeah, Reddit. Yeah.
Okay. My one Shiok comment is on the Reddit thread for episode 588, which is by Furby_bot, Furby_bot, long-time commenter. Basically, it said hawker culture should be saved and preserved since most of us love eating there. And they went on about budget meals and all, but I thought the thing that they did mention at the end was quite interesting. First of all, they gave a shout out to another podcast in Singapore, Longkang Kitties, and they pointed out episode 32 where they talked about hawker culture and involvement of social enterprise. So Jerry's one of the people on the podcast, were hawkers, and they managed to send him and his sister to uni. Not sure if today's hawkers are able to do that with today's rental prices. Actually, that's true. I also have some friends whose parents were hawkers.
Oh yeah? Leong Man Wai.
I mean, I guess can consider Leong Man Wai a friend. Schoolmates.
Yeah.
Whose parents were hawkers and managed to put them through the entire Singapore education system with all the costs and all and provided for. Now, it's a bit hard to imagine that. Where even people in jobs that are in some way you can earn more than hawkers already finding it so tough to, think about house, child and all. Yeah, back then it was like a living that you could provide for your family. Whereas now it's different.
It's a very different structure. I was talking to someone who's in F&B who was just talking about the speculative nature of like bidding for hawker stores, right? Because of the rules of it, you have to pay a certain rent for whatever rent you bid, you have to pay that for 3 years straight,
Yeah.
So some people, they want to be able to sign long-term leases, but they just have to pay a very high price upfront for the first 3 years. And then after that, it does decrease a bit. So that first 3 years, they see it as like you run a loss, right? Which means that the only people who can bid for these stores are people with deep pockets, who can dong for 3 years until they pay a lower rental after that. Yeah. So there is some gamification of the whole thing also. Yeah.
I see.
Yeah. So it's a lot more layered than a discussion that I thought it was. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, interesting to think about. I mean, some people have been saying we should get KFC on. That might be interesting.
Could be.
That might be interesting. But what about your One Shiok Thing, man?
My One Shiok Thing is a documentary series that I was starting to watch with my kid. But I think I enjoyed watching it more than he did. He does. It's called Life on Our Planet. I don't know if you've seen it. It's documentary. You've seen it?
Yeah, a few episodes.
Oh yeah. It's a documentary about life, about how life evolved on Earth, and it's narrated by Morgan Freeman and produced by Steven Spielberg. So the cool thing is that they use CGI alongside actual footage of animals today, and the CGI is really good. I can barely tell sometimes when it's real or not real.
Yeah.
And I think the beauty of it is that they don't shy away from the like when the asteroid hit Earth and all the dinosaurs went extinct. They actually go on a like hour by hour, blow by blow sequence and show you how the dinosaurs actually probably perished.
Oh, I haven't reached that part yet.
Yeah. So I thought that was a real highlight because I was asteroid hit Earth, but so what? What happens there?
Correct.
And they actually go show you literally how the dinosaurs were suffering through that, or allegedly suffering through that. I don't know if it's 100% real.
Wow. Cool. My One Shiok Thing is a recent show that my wife and I started watching because we finished all the Friends seasons already. We sped through that.
And that was because it's off Netflix now, right? November.
Actually, it started because after we had our child, and anytime we had a short breather, right? We just escape with Friends, and it's a damn good show to escape to.
Yeah.
So recently, I saw this trailer on Netflix for a show called Nobody Wants This.
Yes.
Yeah, so it stars Kristen Bell and Adam Brody. Adam Brody from the show The OC. I don't know if any millennials remember The OC when it came out. It was the hot stuff. And I saw the trailer. I was like, this seems a bit like B Grady. Then I started watching it. The good thing is it's a series, and every episode is the 22, 23 minutes thing, which is quite an easy watch. And basically, the show follows an unexpected relationship between a loud agnostic woman and a rogue rabbi. So the woman also happens to run like a love and relationships podcast.
Yeah.
So the first 10 minutes, I think I was ready to like switch it off because it felt like very clunky, the writing.
Yeah.
But by the end of the first episode, right, I'm hooked. And haven't moved on to the second episode yet.
Yeah.
Because we only recently watched it. But I think why I like it is that, I mean, used to see a series where the podcast is a big part of the story is always a nice thing.
Yeah.
I think even like Only Murders in the Building, they also had that. But I think the premise, it deals with an interfaith relationship. And I'm excited to see how they explore that. Of course, partly because I'm in an interfaith relationship. And this one, they start off by having them at opposite extremes. Which I thought was quite interesting. And I don't know how many shows have taken on this premise. So yeah, so I would recommend it as a nice show to watch. And I mean, it's quite highly rated.
Yeah.
That's why the first 10 minutes I was like, really? This is it?
Yeah. Someone was telling me about this over the weekend.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. But is the podcast a bigger part of it, or is the interfaith thing a bigger part of it?
I would say it's a big part of both their personal stories.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so she's a podcaster, and like it's a big part of her character, and he's a rabbi.
Yeah.
And it's a big part of his character.
Yeah.
And she's like the, agnostic podcaster.
Yeah.
And then there's the rabbi.
That's basically your relationship now.
My wife is not a religious leader, okay?
Yeah.
I knew you were going to say that.
But you see, to an earlier point, this is the Harish as a father watching romantic comedies towards around the end of the year about, with strong female leads.
With my wife, lah.
Yeah,
with my wife. Yeah.
Last time wouldn't have caught you dead outside of Fast and Furious, watching something else outside of Fast and Furious.
No, it wasn't Fast and Furious. It was probably like, the
Crazy Rich Asians.
No, fuck that. The one with Sylvester Stallone and all the superstars.
Expendables.
The Expendables or
that was your
sci-fi.
jam. That was your thing.
Now it's like, hey, nobody wants this interfaith
rom-coms.
Sounds good, man.
Rom-com Harish.
Yeah. But yeah, so interesting. So give it a shot, guys.
Yeah.
Cool, man.
Cool.
Awesome.
Another one this week.
Another one this week.
So again, the live show coming up.
Yeah.
Ticket sales coming up on Tuesday, 3 p.m., right?
Yeah, 3
Via
p.m.
our Telegram. Make sure to follow there.
The link to the Telegram is in the show notes.
Yeah.
There's limited seats. If this goes well, we might do more shows.
Yeah.
But it might be the only one. All right. It'll be a nice way to wrap up 2024.
Yeah.
So hope to see you all there. And as always, remember to follow, subscribe. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Spotify, YouTube. And if you want to work with us,
email us at contact@ministryoffunny.com or just check out ministryoffunny.com. That's where all good stuff are.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for listening, everybody.